This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Dawes.
Hello. I normally open by saying Happy Friday, and I'm going to do that today as well. Happy Friday, although last time it actually wasn't.
No, well, it never is a Friday, because we never record on a Friday, do we?
Well, no, because we have to edit and master and do all of these things and the post-production stuff, which last week I forgot to do, which is why it didn't come out on the Friday, but actually late on the Saturday,
I didn't even know that. And thank you for saying we have to do the editing and the blah, 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 because as everyone, regular listeners
the royal
know,
we.
Yes, it is a royal we, and I'm very happy of its use in this particular context, because, of course, I do absolutely nothing technical, which is good for everyone involved.
Everybody likes a royal we, except the Queen's chambermaid, perhaps.
I've actually been into a royal loo.
Have you?
Yes.
Not one of the loos on the Royal when you were in that.
I've been in two, actually.
Oh.
One at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, because there was a royal box for the Queen to arrive in, and of course there was a private loo behind the royal box entirely for the use of the Queen. And I had a similar experience at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, where I was allowed to stay in the royal box actually I had interval drinks there, and there, of course, once again was the royal loo, of which I availed myself of. So there we are, you see.
I once had a wee between ant and deck.
Well,
I don't know if that counts.
That's television royalty.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But there aren't any pictures of you doing that, I take it.
No, there are not, no.
You've conjured up a very interesting image of ant one side of you and deck the other side, and you in the middle having a whittle.
Well, they stand the same way around as they do on the telly when they're at the urinals, I can tell you that much. And there is a royal connection in that it was in Regent's Park, open air theatre.
Ah.
So there is a royal connection there, another royal we.
And are the toilets open air as well?
No, they're the bit that wasn't, thankfully.
Yes. Don't rain on my parade.
No, a bit of a breeze.
Oh, well, how interesting. We've kickstarted.
You say that.
Yes, exactly. I say that. So I've arrived here today to the studio. I've got my coffee in front of me as usual, and outside of Shay Croft is a man cleaning a barbecue. Yes, I have to say this is the style in which Adam Croft lives. The style of a multi-million best-selling author.
My man is cleaning my barbie.
He has a man out there. He's sort of like the the Rees Mogg of crime writing. There's a man cleaning his barbecue, and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "That's a man cleaning my barbecue." I said, "Well, that's very posh, isn't it?" He said, "What he didn't tell me was that I've only got it from Mrs. Croft, who just told me the context for this oven cleaning in the front, because obviously Adam is too ashamed to actually own up to the fact that there was a major incident vis-a-vis and regarding aforementioned barbecue. Would you like to elucidate on that?"
Well, the reason it is being cleaned is because of the build-up of fatty deposits that you do get with a barbecue of stores.
Stop talking about me like that.
But yes, we realised that this needed cleaning when we switched the barbecue on and it caught fire and needed extinguishing. So he is cleaning the fat and all the usual stuff that you get on barbecues off of the barbecue, but is also cleaning a fair amount of CO2 foam out of the inside of it. So
basically, it sort of blew up, flames everywhere. You rushed to the kitchen. I'm just trying to get some dramatic context here. You rushed to the kitchen, grabbed your extinguisher, pulled out the pin, rushed back and sprayed the barbecue until safe.
And that stuff goes everywhere. If anyone's used a fire extinguisher, a CO2 fire extinguisher, on a relatively small fire, it's not just a case of give it a little squirt and it's gone. The stuff there's just like a mushroom cloud comes up like Hiroshima, and it's an experience to remember.
Well, yes, obviously. Well, there we are. The man is Adam's man is. It's like Downton Abbey. This
was about a month and a half ago. It happened. To be honest.
So it's been out there covered in
we've not had the weather
foam.
For another Barbie, have we? So I thought we'd better get it done before we put it away for the winter.
We've been Barbieing like a good one. You've just been having a foam covered. That's a lack of burnt meat in your life over the last month, quite obviously. Anyway, for anyone interested in popping around to Adam's for his next barbecue, which looks as if it's going to be next year now, it's going to be an absolutely spankingly clean surface, no foam on it whatsoever.
No fire, hopefully. Well, there will be some fire, obviously, because it's difficult to do a barbecue without one, but a controlled fire, and not just setting fire to everything around it like it did last time.
News broken on your on your Barbie. Right, I suppose we ought to start talking about crimes, really.
I was going to say, talking of news, bookriot.com had an article very recently where they mentioned their 10 best detectives from recent crime novels. So everyone's favourite detective is probably, your Sherlock Holmes, your a Poirot or a Miss Marple or someone like that. But they went for their favourite detectives from recent crime novels, which I thought was very interesting. So they bookriot.com narrowed it down to Alice Vega from Two Girls Down by Louise Luna, Isaiah Quintabi, I think that's pronounced, by, from IQ by Joe Ide or Ide. We always get names of authors that are impossible to pronounce, don't we?
Well, you do.
Here's another one. Betty Rysick from The Dime by Kathleen Kent. Careful how you say that. Claire DeWitt from Claire DeWitt and The City of the Dead by Sarah Gran. The Dry by Jane Harper, the crime solver, and that was Aaron Falk.
That's the first one I've recognised so far. How good am I? Not very.
Cass Rains, written by Tracy Clark in Broken Places. And from The Widows of Malabar Hill by Sujata Massey, the crime solver Paveen Mystery. Alexandra Cupidi from Salt Lane by William Shaw.
Shaw, yes.
Ellery Hathaway from Vanishing Season by Joanna Schaffhausen. Ellery, of course, a nice name for a fictional detective.
Yes.
We know of a Golden Age one there, don't we?
We do.
Roxanne Weary, The Last Place You Look by Kristen Lepionka. Were their top 10 best detectives from recent crime novels. So I wanted to ask you who your favourite detective from a recent crime novel is. You're not allowed to go back to your classics. You've got to be the last 10 years.
Oh, in the last 10 years, well, I'm a great Connolly fan, as you know, but I think everyone uses. So
you're looking at Harry Bosch.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I love Harry Bosch. I am a big look. It's come straight up on your screen. Montalbano, a fan as well. Many happy hours spent on the island of Sicily with Andrea Camilleri's creation. So yeah, Bosch I think is one of my all-time favourites.
Good.
And as regards British crime writers, I mean, I don't know where to start really, because there are just so many. I mean, put about you. Where would you?
I think what you meant to say was Kempston Hardwick.
Yes, of course, Kempston Hardwick. It's a very difficult one, really, because I get excited every time I pick up a new book. I go, or whatever. If it's good, of course. If it isn't, it's instantly forgotten. But there's so many. I mean, the creations of Billingham and Val McDermid and of course the mighty Rankin. I mean, we all live with their detectives. If you're interested in
Don't
this
forget
genre.
Peter James, or you'll get a letter.
Oh, absolutely, Peter James. I mean, my point is there. There's so many to choose from. Really, I mean, we are blessed with some great crime writers in the UK, and certainly, you spread the net internationally, and even more. The fact that actually two of my favourites happen to be American and Italian is by the by. It comes back to the simple fact that I do like spending an awful lot of time abroad when I read, so and when I write. So there we go. So I hope that's answered that. I'm not sure that it has.
That'll do. While we're on the lists, the Seattle Times, who I think we've gone over to before on matters like this, a few days ago mentioned their top 5 crime books to look forward to in September. They came up with The Second Biggest Nothing by Colin Cotterill, who is a British author who lives in Thailand, and his books are about a character called Dr. Siri, who is the retired national coroner of Laos.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
So yeah, it's set in communist Laos. It says here, series an intriguing character, funny, profound, and mildly supernatural. So yeah, set in 1980. And yes, that sounds very interesting. They also recommend Mycroft and Sherlock, The Empty Birdcage by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Anna Waterhouse, which is described by them as a brilliantly entertaining book with an unlikely source, the basketball legend formerly known as Lou Alcindor. There's links to Sherlock Holmes.
I should hope so with a title like that.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a Sherlock Holmes scholar who is determined to include people of colour in the detective's world, it says here. So they've conjured up a ripping tale about Sherlock Holmes, who is still a university student at this time, his enigmatic brother Mycroft, serial murders, shady aristocrats, and the kidnapping. Wouldn't be Sherlock Holmes without one, would it?
No.
They also recommend The Other End of the Line by Andrea Camilleri, who of course died a couple of months back. And this is, I believe, the latest / last, I presume, Montalbano book. It's the translation by Stephen Sartorelli.
Yes.
The Sicilian Cop is back. Anne Cleeve's new book we spoke about, which has been optioned for TV already. The Long Call, which introduces Detective Inspector Matthew Venn on the north coast of Devon. That'd be a great read. And their final recommendation is Heaven My Home by Attica Locke, who writes stories about African-American life in Texas. Darren Matthews, a black Texas Ranger, searches for the missing son of a vicious white supremacist, which does sound like a very enthralling read.
Yes, well, then you mentioned that it might be the last Camilleri, but as we've mentioned on
he's not
many
going to write
times
anymore,
before,
is he?
well, he's not personally, but you know what happens. I mean,
Yeah.
the publishers. Well, I'm going to Felix Francis has just got his new book out, which he writes now on behalf of his late father and mother, and we've mentioned last week that so many writers are picking up successful characters and books, and so series can carry on. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if we didn't have more Montalbano.
You asked me last week if I would ever take on the mantle of a deceased writer's literary estate, and I was kind of cautious, but that is one that I would happily take on, is the Montalbano books.
Just from the need to research, of course,
for
long periods of time.
Endless trips to Sicily, yeah.
I mean, this is why I write my books in the Mediterranean.
Well, I mean, in general, like we said last week, you've got to have a series of character that you're passionate about and that you know and love, and have that drive and enthusiasm for. So yeah, I think that that would definitely be right up my cup of tea, as you want to say.
Right, now here we are. I've got a question now. I have a confession about A Confession. As many people in the UK know, ITV's new series A Confession, starring Martin Freeman and Imelda Staunton, to name but two of a strikingly fine cast, was shown this week, and I dare say it will be available on platforms internationally very, very soon. What did I think about it? Well, I'll keep that to one side at the moment, because I have a review here from Adam White in The Independent, and it begs a few questions, and I wanted to sort of throw them in your direction and see what you think. He says, Adam White, too much television has been built on the backs of beautiful dead women. Well, that's something that can be discussed, certainly. A Confession is the latest to mine familiar territory, with detectives examining a dead girl's sexual history for potential clues. That A Confession is based on true events only enhances the feeling of icky voyeurism. The very real disappearance and murder of 22-year-old Sian O'Callaghan in 2011, providing material for writer Jeff Pope to craft cliffhangers, plot twists and red herrings. In fairness to Jeff Pope, one of the key figures behind the last decade of British true crime on television, and a brilliant writer and a producer, it has to be said, there was a fascinating legal conundrum at the heart of the investigation into O'Callaghan's disappearance. So sure that the young woman was still alive after she failed to return from a night out, Detective Superintendent Steve Fulcher personally interrogated the man he believed knew of her whereabouts without a solicitor present. He was aware that by doing this he was jeopardising his own career and potential future charges against the suspect. Well, the review goes on. I have to say, it mentions... as did lots of people. There were lots of complaints coming in apparently about the shaky camera work and various other things, and I won't go into that because that's something that I didn't particularly notice, I have to say, but then I'm used to shaky cameras.
And you were horribly drunk when you were watching it. So
No, I was on my third Ovaltine. But there is something about this, something I did feel about it as excellently done as it has been, and again, I've got a couple of friends in it, who were again terrific, and I don't mean to be disloyal, but I sort of felt a little uncomfortable. And Adam White goes on to say about a particular part of it, describing it as a bleakly truthful moment of humanity, but one that presumably unintentionally speaks to why these true crime dramas aren't particularly needed anymore. So here's the question, at long last. I did feel that. I did feel uncomfortable, and I have felt uncomfortable about true crime dramatisations before, which is, people say that's perverse. You write crime novels, you regularly bump people off in your books, and you're not particularly squeamish about that. So the question is there a difference? Why am I feeling uncomfortable? If it was a documentary, would I feel so uncomfortable? Probably not. And I know that there's a very successful true crime with Mr. Twain, taking authors around the country, like Mark Billingham or whatever, to places that they were inspired to write about, although they are not factual representations of actual cases. They've taken the basic content of a particular murder or situation and have used that, and the rest is made up using their own characters, etc. So fiction versus reality. Why do I feel a little uncomfortable watching a real life dramatisation?
I think for me, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think if you're watching something purely fictional, fine, it's purely fictional. If you're watching a documentary or true crime programme, it attempts to obviously highlight what happened, look at the investigation, and give it a kind of forensic examination. Mm-hmm. When those two worlds collide, you are creating entertainment and potential titillation out of a real crime. That's the difference. You are perhaps trivialising what actually happened rather than kind of putting it under the microscope as you do in a true crime program or documentary. Maybe that's what it is. Not saying I agree, but maybe that's why it feels uncomfortable, is that it is something real being used for entertainment. It's not real or entertainment. It's
not completely fictional.
You've made something real entertainment.
Exactly. Well, maybe that's the reason. And again, I mean, you look at it and you can't fault the creative people involved in it. It's just I worry about the sort of the enterprise. And maybe Adam White is wrong. Maybe the days for this sort of drama maybe over. But well, thank you very much. You've helped answer my question. I don't feel quite so guilty now. So that is a confession. Now, you will, if you've seen it, you will probably disagree and say, "What is Dawes going on about?"
I don't think anyone ever says that after listening to this podcast.
Well, you say it as soon as we finish. And watch it because it is the first episode, and I hate judging anything by a first episode. I will watch the second episode and see how I feel. Again, respect for the making of it and what it is, but it left me feeling a little uncomfortable and not in the right way, I don't think.
Yeah. I know you do, however, like your French dramas. You like your foreign crime on BBC 4 and what have you.
I do.
This is on Channel 4 and All 4. The French cop series Kane is coming to British shores, say crimefictionlover.com. I presume it's pronounced Kane. It would be in English. It might be K or something like that in French.
I recognise the actors already. There's one from engrenage.
Oh, really?
Yes,
They're doing
looks
the
like the lead
rounds,
actor.
are they?
Yes.
Tonight, if you're listening to this on release day, Friday the 6th of September, Kane arrives to stream on all 4 at 9 o'clock. And presumably we'll be able to download that afterwards from the usual on-demand things. Bruno de Brandt, who was previously seen in Spiral, is a disabled detective who is hitting our screens for probably one of the first times. Set in sunny Marseille, down on the south coast of France. Apparently he has a touch of Magnum PI about it. He dashes about in an old yellow Saab convertible, and is being described on crimefictionnovel.com as a little bit like a French cross between Magnum and Ironside. And looking at the picture of him there, I would have to agree. It's apparently a fast-paced procedural, dialogue-driven, packing complex cases into hour-long episodes.
Wow, no second chance.
Also see No Second Chance based on the book by Harlan Coben, so it says at the bottom there. Not connected here, but yeah, this is Kane, which is coming to Channel 4 and All 4 tonight. Or if you're listening to this not on the day it was released, previously.
Well, I recall that, and that's absolutely terrific. He's a very good actor. He Bruno. I recognise him from lots of different things, but he's got his own series at last instead of supporting other people. So that's okay. I'm going to watch that. Thank you.
That looks like very good fun, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Kane.
We haven't talked about books really yet, and I actually finished reading a fiction book and a crime book, probably about the second or third one of the year. You're laughing at.
It's great. A podcast about crime fiction. Well, I don't actually read. I haven't got time to read a book.
Too busy talking about them to actually sit down and read them. And it was The Passengers by John Mars. I will read the back of the book, as we do on here. A ruthless hacker has targeted 8 driverless cars, setting them on a fatal collision course. If the authorities interfere with the vehicles before they reach their destination, they will explode, killing everyone on board. Now the hacker is insisting that the public and a select jury judge who should live and who should die. It's trial by social media, a popularity contest that will be fought to the death. It's a fascinating book set in the very near future, something that is very conceivably possible with the advent of driverless cars, and also picks up on social media and how you end up with mob rule and things like that, and people just deciding who lives, who dies based on social media and based on how we judge people and what we think we know about them at the time and what then later transpires and comes out and who these people really are. Fascinating read, one that I definitely recommend. That's The Passengers by John Mars.
John Mars? I haven't heard that.
And it sounds like this.
Oh, you see, that sounds different from an awful lot of books.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes. Okay, right, John Mars. I've not read any John Mars books, but
yeah, very good.
I will do now. In fact, I'll probably nick that copy from you.
Well, there you go. That's
Thank
yours.
you very much.
You can have that.
Marvellous.
If you want your own copy, now that Bob's nicked mine, you can head over to kobo.com. They very proudly and thankfully sponsor this podcast, which would be very expensive otherwise. Head over to kobo.com, enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, and if you're a new customer to Kobo, you get 90% off of your purchase of The Passengers by John Mars or any other book you like to buy, maybe one of ours. If you're an existing Kobo reader, use the promo code PARTNERS and you might get 40% off. What else was I going to say on that?
That's the longest running mystery on
I
the
know.
podcast.
I was also going to say that you don't need a Kobo e-reader. They are excellent. I'd highly recommend them, but you can get the free Kobo app for your phone or
well,
tablet.
that's what I've got, and that's what I use
Yeah.
predominantly, but usually because I've forgotten my reader. So
very handy if you're stuck in a queue or waiting for an appointment. You can just kind of pull your phone out, open a Kobo app, and carry on reading.
Which, of course, I very often am, stuck in a queue or waiting for an appointment.
Or waiting in a Winnebago for your grand entrance.
Or commuting into town. So, yeah, okay. Paul Hirons of The Killing Time has mentioned a new television series out in 2020. We Hunt together. It is called, written and created by Cheats Habby Hull. It's a 6-part series that looks to provide a fresh new take on the cat and mouse sub-genre. Now, we know who's starring in it, and it's an impressive cast. Heron writes, the story begins with the collision of two extraordinary people. Bubba, played by Deepo Ola, a former child soldier desperate to suppress his violent conditioning, and Freddie, played by Hermione Caulfield, a magnetic and disarming, charming, free spirit. When Bubba rescues Freddie from an attack following a date that has turned sour, something dark is ignited in them both. Two star-crossed killers are on the loose with two dysfunctional detectives in hot pursuit. D.S. Lola Franks, played by the brilliant Eve Miles, and D.I. Jackson Mendy, played by BAFTA-nominated Babu Cisse, have to come to terms with their mismatched partnership and polar opposite outlooks on the culpability of the criminal mind as they try to outsmart the killers. Miles has said, "We Hunt Together" is a masterpiece. It's thought-provoking and punchy, yet comic at times. Really looking forward to carving out this complicated character and working on these brilliant scripts. I bet she is. Look out for it next year. So that's UK TV channel Alibi in 2020. And all fans of Eve Miles, of which, of course, I am one, will be glued to that.
Excellent. Well, that sounds very good. I'm going to have a look at that. I'm also going to have a look at Kane, the French cult series.
I mean, no wonder you're not reading books. I mean, this is terrible. This is a crime fiction. Well, I mean,
although I do have a holiday booked. I am going away in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm going to take some books, and I'm actually going to read them because we've pulled a bit of a smart move actually for this holiday. We're taking both sets of grandparents with us.
Oh, you clever people!
So we have free babysitting because anybody who has children knows that you don't go on holiday. The children go on holiday and you watch them having a lovely time.
Yes.
So yeah, we will actually hopefully get at least a few days to ourselves where we can actually have a holiday.
Some downtime by the pool.
Get this, our son loves the beach. Both sets of our parents love the beach. My wife and I, not fussed, we prefer a pool.
Yes. So
I'm sure we can at least get a couple of days in the week where we can say to them, why don't you take him down the beach? We'll sit here and
where
drink
is this
beer.
beach and pool going to be?
On a lovely little Greek island. Yes. I'm not going any more detailed than that.
No.
And we've hopefully timed it so we shouldn't miss an episode of Partners in Crime either.
Oh, well.
I have to record one a bit early and one a bit late. But
I wish my life was as organised as Mr. Croft's here, but sadly it isn't. So that's your holiday sorted out, which is good. We haven't done many books. We've only just done the one book. Well, I'll tell you why. Because I did prepare a whole piece on a crime author, and I got here and I was told that I couldn't possibly, by the boss sitting here, that I couldn't do it because they're only published on one particular platform, and that particular platform doesn't happen to be Kobo. So I could have been filling these minutes with.
There's no point in advertising a book that people can't use their Kobo discount for, is there?
I entirely understand. I entirely understand, and I should have done my homework a little bit better. However, I will say that this mystery writer is very, very good, and probably one of the most successful writers in crime fiction at the moment. And here we are. I wonder if any of you out there can guess who that writer is.
Well, we'll leave it there.
Well, there we are.
And that's not the only thing we'll leave there, because we're almost at the half an hour mark. We try to keep these things to about half an hour, don't we? We're not anal about it, but
yes.
It seems to be a nice length.
It's a nice length, and by Friday, as people are listening to this, if you've got your editing skills together and it's not coming out on Monday afternoon, next week, we'll probably know what state this country is going to be in, or actually probably we won't, as usual.
No.
Extraordinary times we live in, do we not?
We do, and I think they're only going to get more and more extraordinary. Shall we see what they're like next week?
Yes, why not? Order, order.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Dawes and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.